Rain poured over the alien city of Valora, where metal towers touched the clouds and bright neon lights covered the night sky. Inside a small shelter building, a young alien woman named Lyra sat on a cold bench, her thin fingers tracing the metal floor. Her left leg was not real. It was a worn-out mechanical limb that clicked every time she moved. She had silver skin that reflected the dim light and soft blue eyes that always looked sad. She was kind and gentle, but no one wanted her every week. New families came to the shelter looking for children or young women to adopt into their homes. They smiled, asked questions, and left, always with someone healthy, never with her. Lyra had watched others leave for years. She stayed behind, alone, always the one left out. The workers whispered about her. "She's sweet, but no one wants a broken girl." Those words stayed in her heart like sharp glass. That evening, the shelter head, a tall alien with red skin, called her into the office. "Lyra," he said without looking at her, "we cannot keep you here anymore. You're grown now, and no family wants you." His voice was cold. Lyra nodded slowly, trying not to cry. She packed her few things, a small bag, a scarf, and a photo of other girls she once shared a room with. She walked out into the dark city as the rain fell harder. Her metal leg slipped on the wet street. She fell, scraping her hands. For a moment she just sat there, cold and tired. She looked at the sky and whispered, "Why was I even born?" That same night, a human cargo ship entered Valora's orbit. Humans were rare on this planet. Most aliens feared or avoided them. The ship belonged to Ethan Cross, a single father and mechanical engineer. He had lost his wife years ago in a space accident and now traveled with his small daughter, Mira. They came to Valora to deliver repair parts for an alien power station. As their ship landed near the old shelter district, Mira begged her father, "Papa, can I go outside for a minute?" "I saw a light." Ethan smiled weakly. "Only for a short while." "Sweetheart." He followed her out, holding a rain shield above her head. Then, through the storm, they saw her, Lyra, kneeling beside the road, her bag open, her hands bleeding. Mira ran toward her before Ethan could stop her. "Are you okay, lady?" the little girl asked, her small hand reaching out. Lyra looked up, surprised, her voice trembled. "I'm fine, just fell." "I'm sorry, I shouldn't be here." Ethan walked closer, his eyes kind but cautious. He noticed her mechanical leg sparking faintly. The gears jammed with mud. "You're hurt," he said softly. "Let me take a look." Lyra shook her head. "It's nothing. No one helps people like me." Mira frowned. "Papa helps everyone," she said proudly. Ethan knelt beside Lyra, opening his small toolkit from his belt. He spoke gently. "Let me fix this. I'm an engineer. It won't take long." Lyra hesitated, watching his human hands move with care. The sound of tools and rain filled the quiet night. In minutes, her leg moved again. Smooth and strong, she blinked, hardly believing it. Why did you help me?" she whispered. Ethan smiled. "Because you needed help. That's all the reason I need, for the first time in years." Lyra felt warmth inside her chest. Mira handed her a small bread piece from her pocket. "You should eat." Lyra took it carefully, smiling shyly. "Thank you, little one," she said. Her voice soft. Mira giggled. "You have shiny eyes." But before the moment could last, the air filled with loud mechanical sounds. 3 flying patrol drones appeared in the street, their red lights scanning the area. A robotic voice spoke. "Attention! Human presence detected. Sector restricted." Ethan pulled Mira behind him. Lyra froze, panic flashing across her face. "Humans are not allowed here," she whispered. "You must go. They'll arrest you." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Then they'll have to arrest me for helping." The drones fired a warning beam, burning the ground beside them. Lyra shouted, "This way!" She led them through narrow alleys, her mechanical leg clicking fast. They ran until they reached an old drainage tunnel hidden behind broken pipes. Inside, they stopped, breathing hard. Mira hugged Lyra tightly, her little heart racing. Ethan looked at the alien woman, the one no one wanted, and said quietly, "Looks like we're in trouble together." Lyra smiled faintly, though fear filled her eyes. For the first time, someone had said we. "Not you." Outside, the patrol drones searched the streets, their red lights cutting through the rain. Inside the tunnel, 3 lives hid together. A lonely alien girl who was denied love, a tired human father with a wounded heart, and a small child who saw no difference between them. That night, something began that would change their worlds forever. The night was cold and silent inside the dark tunnel. Lyra sat with her knees pulled close, her metal leg humming softly in the quiet. Beside her, the human man, Ethan, checked his broken wrist device, trying to find a safe route out of the city. His little daughter, Mira, slept on his lap, her tiny hand still holding Lyra's scarf. Rainwater dripped from the ceiling. Lyra stared at the ground, afraid to speak. She had never met a human before, only heard stories, dangerous, heartless destroyers of worlds. But Ethan didn't look dangerous. He had gentle eyes and a tired face, the kind of man who had carried pain for many years. Finally, Lyra whispered, "You shouldn't have helped me. They'll hunt you now." Ethan looked up, his voice calm. "I couldn't just walk away, even if it cost your freedom?" she asked. He smiled faintly. "Freedom doesn't mean much if I let someone suffer beside me." Those words made her heart ache in a way she didn't understand. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. To most people, she was a burden, a problem to ignore, but to this human, she was someone worth saving. When dawn came, the tunnel walls glowed faint blue from the morning light. Outside, sirens echoed through the city, and the patrol drones still searched for them. Ethan knew they couldn't stay here. He woke Mira gently. "We have to move. Sweetheart." The little girl rubbed her eyes and smiled at Lyra. "Good morning, shiny lady." Lyra tried not to laugh. "Good morning, little one." She stood up slowly, her mechanical leg clicking. Ethan offered his hand to help her climb out of the tunnel. When their hands touched, Lyra felt warmth travel through her cold fingers. It had been years since anyone held her hand. They followed narrow paths between ruined buildings until they reached the city's edge. There the walls ended, and an endless forest of glowing trees began. The air smelled fresh and clean. "This place," Ethan said softly. "Maybe we can hide here for a while." Lyra nodded, though fear filled her heart. Leaving the city meant leaving everything she knew, but staying meant death for all of them. As they entered the forest, strange blue insects flew around. Lighting their way, Mira ran after them, laughing, her small voice echoing between the trees. Ethan carried a small pack of supplies. Lyra walked beside him, limping slightly, her leg still hurt. But she didn't complain. After hours of walking, they found an old broken shuttle hidden under vines. It looked like it had crashed long ago. Ethan inspected it and smiled. "This could be our shelter." He cleared the inside, fixed the door with his tools, and started a small power cell. Soon, soft lights filled the small space. Mira clapped, "Papa's ship house." Lyra laughed quietly, a sound even she hadn't heard from herself in years. That night, as they ate the last of their food packs, Lyra sat near the door watching the forest lights. Ethan joined her, handing her a small blanket. "You should rest," he said. She looked at him and asked softly, "Why are you being kind to me?" "I'm not one of you." Ethan leaned back, watching the sky through the cracks. "I lost someone once," he said, his voice low. "My wife. She was brave, strong. She would have helped you too." Lyra looked down, feeling her heart tighten. "I'm sorry." He smiled gently. "Don't be. Helping you feels right." Outside, thunder rolled in the distance. The storm was coming back, but inside the broken shuttle, there was warmth, something that didn't exist in Lyra's life before. As Mira slept peacefully beside them, Lyra whispered, "You shouldn't stay with me. Ethan, when they find us, they'll hurt you." He looked at her, his eyes serious. "Then they'll have to go through me first." Those words made her look away quickly, afraid he would see the tears in her eyes. For years, she had dreamed of someone who would stand by her, someone who would see her as more than a damaged body. Now that person sat beside her, a human from another world. In the middle of the night, she woke to strange noises outside, soft mechanical hums moving closer. She touched Ethan's shoulder, whispering, "Someone's here." He grabbed his blaster quietly and turned off the power lights. Through a crack in the door, they saw red search beams moving between the trees. Patrol drones again. Lyra's heart raced. Ethan pulled Mira close, keeping her silent. The drones hovered near the shuttle wreck, scanning the ground. Lyra knew one wrong sound could mean death. She reached down, opened a small hatch near her leg, and pulled out a round device. It was an old alien jammer she had stolen years ago. She pressed it and the air buzzed. Outside, the drones began to spark and fall to the ground. Ethan looked at her in shock. "You did that?" She smiled slightly. "Maybe I'm not so broken after all." He couldn't help but grin. In that moment, the bond between them grew stronger, something unspoken and powerful. The danger passed, but the silence between them was filled with more than fear. It was filled with trust. As dawn painted the forest gold, Lyra whispered to herself, "I was unwanted. Now I'm needed." And deep inside, she knew this was only the beginning. Morning sunlight filtered through the glowing trees, spreading soft blue light over the broken shuttle. Birds with crystal wings sang softly, and the air smelled like wet metal and flowers. For the first time in years, Lyra woke up without fear. The sound of small laughter made her open her eyes. Outside, Mira was chasing a glowing insect. Giggling as it flew around her head, Ethan sat near the fire, fixing a piece of scrap metal with his tools. Lyra stepped out of the shuttle, her metal leg clicking softly. Ethan looked up and smiled. "Morning, Lyra, how's the leg?" She touched the side of it. "Still working, thanks to you." It felt strange to have someone care. All her life, people had looked at her with pity or disgust, but Ethan looked at her like she was normal, and little Mira treated her like family. Ethan handed her a small cup of warm drink. "It's not much," he said, "but it'll wake you up." Lyra took a sip. Surprised by the taste, it was bitter but comforting. "Thank you," she said quietly. He smiled. "You've said that a lot since we met." She looked down. "Because no one's ever given me reasons to say it before." They spent the day repairing the shuttle together. Ethan showed Lyra how to connect power coils and build a heat wall to protect against cold nights. She, in return, used her alien knowledge to set up small energy traps to alert them of intruders. By sunset, their tiny home looked alive again. Broken. Yes, but warm and safe as the fire crackled. Mira climbed into Lyra's lap, holding a small broken doll. "Can you fix her?" Mira asked, her eyes wide. Lyra smiled softly and nodded, using her delicate tools to repair the toy's cracked eye. When she handed it back, Mira hugged her tightly. "Thank you, Mama Lyra." Lyra froze, shocked. "Mama," she whispered. Mira nodded happily. "You're kind like one?" Ethan looked up from his work, his face gentle but unreadable. Lyra's eyes filled with tears, and she looked away quickly, hiding her face that night after Mira fell asleep. Lyra sat by the fire alone. Ethan joined her, sitting quietly for a while before speaking. "She called you Mama," he said softly. Lyra nodded. "She doesn't understand. I'm not a mother. I'm barely a person." Ethan frowned. "Don't say that." "It's true," she said, touching her metal leg. "No one wanted me, not even my own kind." He looked at her seriously. Then they were blind. "You're strong, Lyra. You survived everything they couldn't." She turned to him, her voice trembling. "Why do you talk like that? Like I matter?" He sighed, staring into the fire. "Because you do. You remind me of what's good in people. Even when you've been hurt, you still help. Still care." Lyra felt warmth rise in her chest, stronger than the fire before them. No one had ever said such words to her. The next few days passed peacefully. They built walls from old metal plates and grew small food plants using recycled parts. At night, Mira would fall asleep between them, and Lyra would hum soft alien songs she remembered from childhood. It felt like a dream, a fragile one that could break any moment. But one morning, while Ethan was out searching for clean water, Lyra heard a faint humming in the forest. She stepped outside carefully, her sensors picking up movement. Through the trees, a small drone hovered. Scanning the ground, her heart pounded. She quickly jammed its signal using the same device from before, but not fast enough. The drone flashed red before falling, sending a signal to someone far away. When Ethan returned, she told him everything. He clenched his fists. "They found us." She nodded, fear clear in her eyes. "Maybe you should take Mira and go," she whispered. He shook his head. "We're not leaving you." That night, as they prepared for escape, Mira woke up, sleepy and scared. "Papa, are we in danger?" she asked. Ethan hugged her close. "We'll be okay, sweetheart." Lyra placed a hand on the girl's hair and whispered, "You're safe with us always," but deep inside, Lyra knew safety was only an illusion. If the alien authorities found them, Ethan could be executed for sheltering her, and she couldn't let that happen. When the storm hit that night, Lyra waited until Ethan fell asleep beside Mira. She looked at them one last time, tears filling her eyes. Then she whispered softly, "Thank you for giving me a family. Even for a little while." She turned, limping quietly into the rain, disappearing into the glowing forest. By morning, Ethan woke to find her gone. Only her broken scarf lay on the ground beside the fire, still warm. He stared at it in silence, realizing the truth. She had left to protect them, and now he would risk everything to bring her back. The forest had 1,000 small sounds, but that night it was silent in a way that felt wrong. Lyra moved through the trees with care, her metal legs splashing in puddles. She had gone to protect Ethan and Mira. She had not planned to be gone so long. Far from the shuttle, a dark vehicle slid between trunks and stopped. Alien enforcers in black armor stepped out. Their helmets hid their faces like shadows. They carried long nets and bright torches. Lyra froze when she saw them. Her heart thudded. She tried to turn, but a sharp pain cut through her leg. A trap, thin wire hidden in the mud, had snagged her foot. The net came down like a falling web. She swung her arms, but the enforcers were fast. They grabbed her and locked her in a small cage. The metal door clicked and her breath caught. "Traitor," one of the enforcers said. "You help humans. You betray your kind." They bound her hands and put a sensor collar around her neck. The collar buzzed cold and tight. Lyra whispered, "Please, let me go." But the enforcers did not listen. They placed her in the back of the dark vehicle and drove away. Trees blurred past her window. The world felt small and cruel. At the shuttle, Ethan woke with a start. He noticed Lyra's scarf was missing. The fire still glowed low. Mira slept with a hand on the doll Lyra had fixed. Ethan felt a cold knot in his chest. He searched the camp and found tracks, many small prints and a single set of heavier ones leading away. He followed them with a silent dread growing inside. He found the broken wire and net pieces. Panic rose. He thought of Lyra trapped, of Mira calling for a mother who might never return. He picked up the jammer Lyra had used before and ran, calling Mira, "Stay here. Don't move." She hugged the doll and nodded, eyes wide and scared. Ethan kissed her forehead and left her inside. The city jail was a tall gray tower that hummed with machines. Inside, cold lights blinked and the floors smelled of oil and worry. Lyra was pushed into a small cell with a single hard bench. The walls were smooth and bright. Other prisoners watched her with empty eyes. A guard laughed. "You look even smaller when you are caged." Lyra pressed her palms to the bars and tried to hold herself steady. She thought of Ethan's hands fixing her leg, of Mira's small laugh. She tried not to cry. Pride was the only shield she had. But when the door clanged, a man in a higher uniform stepped inside. He looked at her like she was an object to be fixed or thrown away. "You will confess you aided humans," he said. "You will name who helped you." Lyra shook her head. "I will not betray them," she said, voice thin. "They are my family." He smiled cruelly. "Family? Your kind does not get families with humans. You will be shown the cost." He called for the pain machine. A cold chair rolled in with straps and tiny needles. Lyra's chest tightened. Back in the forest, Ethan did not stop. He moved fast and careful. He knew the city well enough, but not well enough to walk in without being seen. He wore a gray worker cloak and greased his boots with mud. He reached the city wall and slipped through a maintenance gate using a forged code he had carried for emergencies. He moved like a shadow, watching guards and listening. He found the jail by following patrol routes and counting towers. It was worse than he thought. Drones orbited like hunting birds. Cameras tracked his steps. He crouched in the dark and watched as an enforcer dragged a cage through the gate. His fist balled. He remembered Lyra's small hand in his and Mira's sleeping face. Fear turned to iron. Inside the jail, the man in the high uniform ordered a public hearing for Lyra. The chamber would be full of officials. If she was judged guilty, they would send her to the labor pits. Worse, they could strip her of all rights and hand her to a prison far away. Lyra stood weak but proud. She met the man's eyes. Ethan slipped past a low guard near the holding cells. He had a small blade and a stolen ID chip. He moved toward the sound of voices. A child's cry echoed down the corridors. "Mira." Ethan's heart stopped. He had not planned for this. He followed the sound until he saw two guards holding a small girl who was screaming for her father. Ethan recognized her. Mira clung to a gray skirt and whimpered. Something broke inside him. He could not let them take both of them. He struck then, sudden and raw. He knocked the first guard with the hilt of his blade and pushed the second into a corner. He grabbed Mira, pulling her close, and ran toward the holding cell where Lyra waited. Alarms screamed. Red lights splashed the walls. Footsteps thundered. In the cell hall, Lyra heard the clamor and saw a shadow move past the bars. Ethan's face was split with effort and fear. He reached through the bars, his hand trembling, and touched Lyra's. "Hold on," he whispered. "I will not leave you." 100 armored boots closed in. A heavy door began to slide down, sealing the hall. Ethan looked at Mira and then at Lyra. He made a choice without words. He shoved Mira through a small side door into a narrow maintenance tunnel, while he held the line against the guards. The maintenance door would close slowly. The last thing Mira saw was Ethan's jaw set hard like metal. Lyra felt the bars shake as Ethan pulled with all his strength. She heard the jackboots of the guards and the final clank of the heavy door sealing the hall. "Go!" Ethan shouted into the noise. "Run and don't look back!" Torn between hope and dread, Mira scrambled through the dark tunnel with the doll clutched to her chest. Behind the sliding metal, the jail filled with shouting and the sound of something terrible approaching. Lyra watched Ethan's back as he stood alone in the doorway, broad and small at once, and then the guards surged forward. The scene ended with the echo of boots and the ringing of alarms. Lyra's hand was still in Ethan's for a moment, warm and real. Then a guard struck, and the world went black. The wind howled across the rocky hills, carrying smoke and ash from the far city. A small figure stumbled across the wild land, barefoot, bruised, and holding a cracked doll. Mira. She had run all night through the hidden tunnel. Her cheeks were dirty. Her voice was gone. But she didn't stop. In her little heart, only one thing mattered. She had to find someone who could help bring back Papa and Lyra. Hours passed. Just as her legs gave out, she saw it. An old tower hidden beneath the cliffs, covered in moss and solar cloth. She crawled toward it and collapsed. Inside the tower, a tall alien with one glowing eye and a heavy limp watched from a broken window. He turned to a group of outcasts, miners, former soldiers, and others who had once defied the central rule. "A child," he said, his voice deep. "A human child." They rushed outside, lifting Mira carefully. They gave her water, food, and warmth. Later, when her strength returned, she whispered, "Please help them. They saved me. They saved each other." She told them about the girl with the metal leg and the father who stood against soldiers. The leader listened silently. His name was Rorik, once a high-ranking war general who now lived with exiles. Beings who believed in peace, love, and lost causes. "We don't take sides anymore," one of the outcasts said. "But this isn't about sides," Rorik replied. "This is about a man who didn't see species, and a woman who gave up everything for a child." The next morning, Rorik sent scouts to find news. What they brought back chilled everyone. Ethan had been captured. Lyra was unconscious, moved to a transport station. They were to be shipped off-world for trial and punishment. And then silence. That night, Mira sat beside the fire, holding Lyra's broken scarf in her hands. "Do you think they're okay?" she asked Rorik. He didn't lie. "I don't know. But I know they didn't give up on each other. So we won't either." Meanwhile, inside the transport station, Lyra woke up in a cold cell, her metal leg damaged again, her arms tied. She blinked in pain. "Ethan?" she called, her voice weak. No answer. She was alone. A small screen turned on above her cell. A voice spoke. "You will be sent to Sector 12, a cold place where no one returns. You should have accepted your place." Lyra closed her eyes. No, not again. Not this time. She had found something too important to lose. A family. A reason to live. A reason to fight. With effort, she reached into the panel on her damaged leg. There was still one energy pulse inside. A last charge Ethan had placed there. She rerouted it through her fingers, touching the metal floor. A weak spark traveled up the walls. Not much, but enough. Just enough to send a signal. Far away in the hidden village, one of Rorik's techs jumped up. "Sir, we got a pulse, low level, but it's her." "Lyra's alive." Mira ran to the screen. "Is Papa with her?" Rorik nodded slowly. "Not yet, but he will be." Plans began that night. Old weapons were dusted off. A secret ship hidden under rock was powered on. They had no army, no war fleet, but they had heart, and just enough hope. As they prepared, Mira approached Rorik. "Please take me," she said. "She'll be scared. Papa will be hurt. They'll need me." The crew hesitated. Rorik looked into her eyes, so much like Ethan's. He nodded. She's braver than all of us, he said. Back at the station, Lyra sat in the cell, humming the song she once sang to Mira. She didn't know if anyone would come. But the song kept her warm. She believed in one thing now. Family wasn't blood. It was who stood by you when the world turned away. That belief kept her alive, and then the lights flickered. The ground shook. Sirens blared. Outside the prison walls, a single ship with strange markings flew fast and low, too fast for guards to track. Inside that ship, a small girl held her doll tightly, eyes sharp, heart full of fire. The walls of the prison shook as alarms screamed across the station. Lights turned red, sirens echoed, and guards shouted into their radios. Inside her cold cell, Lyra looked up in shock, her heart pounding. Was this real? Was someone actually coming? Smoke poured through the corridor vents and sparks danced along the ceiling. The building had never been attacked before, no one dared. Lyra's hands trembled as she stood slowly, her damaged leg clicking with every step. Through the small glass window of her cell, she saw guards running away. Then came a sound she'd never forget. Mira's voice, soft but clear, echoing through the speaker system. Lyra, it's me. Don't give up. We're coming. Lyra gasped and touched her chest. They came back, she whispered, as tears filled her eyes. Outside, in the skies above the prison station, a small ship dodged plasma fire from the towers. Inside, Rorik piloted while former warriors manned the weapons. But it was Mira who guided them with a small tracking chip Lyra had once placed in her own leg, just in case. And now, just in case had become their lifeline. I can get into the main door, said one of the crew. But someone has to go in alone. Rorik turned to Mira. You'll stay here. It's dangerous. Mira looked at him, firm and brave. She's my family. I'm not leaving. Back inside, Lyra's cell unlocked with a hiss. A figure appeared in the smoke. She blinked. It was Ethan, bruised, tired, but standing tall with a metal baton in his hand and fire in his eyes. Miss me? He said with a crooked smile. Lyra rushed forward, nearly falling. You're alive, she cried, wrapping her arms around him. I made you a promise, he said, holding her tightly. And I keep my promises. Behind them, Mira appeared from the smoke, holding the doll Lyra had once fixed. Lyra gasped and hugged the little girl. You're supposed to be safe. Mira smiled. Home is where you are, but they had no time. Sirens changed tone. A countdown had begun. The station's AI was preparing a self-destruct. If they stayed, they'd all die. We have to go, Ethan said, grabbing Lyra's hand. But Lyra stopped. No, not yet. What do you mean? Ethan asked. There are others, she said. They're in the lower cells, prisoners like me. Forgotten people. If we leave them, we become like the ones who left me behind. Ethan stared at her. Mira nodded. Let's save them too. The choice was clear. They didn't come just to survive. They came to change everything. They split up. Lyra, limping but fast, used her knowledge of the prison's design to find the control room. Ethan and Mira followed the prison map, unlocking cells, guiding prisoners to the upper deck. The rescued were weak, sick, scared. But when they saw Lyra, they followed her like a leader. She was no longer the girl nobody wanted. Now she was the woman everyone trusted. Guards returned, blocking the exit. Rorik's team fought bravely, but they were outnumbered. Then Lyra stepped forward. She activated a hidden frequency in her robotic leg, an old military signal used by engineers. The metal around the prison shook. Doors opened. Shields dropped. She had turned the entire prison's security system against itself. The tide changed. Minutes later, the survivors and rebels escaped onto the ship. The station exploded behind them, lighting the sky in orange and silver. Inside the ship, silence filled the air as everyone stared at Lyra. You saved us, one of the alien prisoners whispered. No, Lyra said, looking at Mira and Ethan. We saved each other. Mira hugged her, her voice muffled by Lyra's chest. Does this mean we go home now? Ethan looked at the stars and said, We build one. Rorik nodded. There's a village waiting, and a story that's going to change how every planet sees love and family. Lyra sat quietly, watching the stars pass through the window. She touched her metal leg, no longer ashamed of it. It was part of her. Like Ethan, like Mira, like the people she just freed. But far in the distance, someone watched from another ship. A dark figure, a high commander of the alien council. His eyes narrowed. This isn't over, he whispered. Back on the ship, Lyra smiled without knowing what was coming next. But for now, she had made her choice not to run, not to hide, but to live, and to love with everything she had left. A soft breeze passed over the hills of New Aurea, a place once silent and broken, now alive with sound and hope. Tents had become homes. Scrap had turned to schools, and fear had turned into family. At the heart of the village stood Lyra, her mechanical legs shining under the rising sun. Children ran past her laughing. Some were alien, some were human. None of them cared. She bent down to fix a boy's loose boot and smiled. Once no one had wanted her. Now they looked to her with trust. It had been 3 months since they escaped the prison station. Word spread across planets. A disabled alien girl, once forgotten, had led a prison break, saved dozens, and stood beside a human who defied laws to protect her. It became a story the stars couldn't ignore. News broadcasts showed Lyra's face, not as a broken being, but as a symbol of love that crossed lines drawn long ago. Petitions flooded the alien councils. Even powerful races, once silent, now questioned the old ways. And under all of that pressure, change began. In the new village, Ethan helped repair solar towers, while Mira helped new families plant seeds in small gardens. Mira had friends now, alien and human, and every evening she returned home to find 2 warm smiles waiting for her. Home, she said often, isn't a place. It's people who wait for you. That night, the village held a celebration. A crowd gathered in the square made of smooth stone and rebuilt metal. Lyra stood at the center, her hand in Ethan's. A voice echoed from the old speaker tower. By the will of the village and the witness of stars, we honor 2 souls who changed the galaxy with nothing but love. Lyra wore a simple silver dress. Her mechanical leg was not hidden. It was part of her, proud and strong. Ethan wore his old engineer jacket, patched and dusty, just the way she liked it. Rorik stepped forward, now smiling for the first time in many years. Will you, Lyra, accept this man as your partner, your family, your future? Lyra looked into Ethan's eyes and nodded. I already have. But yes, forever. Will you, Ethan Cross, stand beside this woman who saved more than lives? She saved hope. Ethan held her hand tighter. I would follow her into fire. I already did. And I'd do it again. The village cheered. Children threw petals in the air. And Mira, smiling the brightest, ran into their arms. Now we're really family, she whispered. Later, as the stars lit the night sky, Lyra sat alone near the old signal tower. Ethan found her there, holding something in her hands. It was the scarf she once wore in the rain, back when she had no name, no home, and no one. He sat beside her. You okay? She nodded slowly. I just never thought I'd live long enough to see this day. He wrapped his arm around her. You gave others the courage to dream. You didn't just survive, Lyra, you changed the world. She looked at the stars, eyes wet but peaceful. Maybe, she whispered, but I couldn't have done it alone. On a distant planet inside the Grand Council chambers, the vote was made official. Law 440X passed. Human-alien unions were now legal across 5 major systems. Disabled individuals would no longer be excluded from adoption or partnership selection programs. And at the heart of this wave of change was a girl no one had chosen. A girl who, through one act of kindness, had been seen, and through love had become something far greater. Back on New Aurea, a statue stood at the edge of the village. It showed a human man and an alien woman holding hands with a child between them. The inscription read, Love is not a rule, it's a choice, and the brave always choose it. Lyra often visited the statue, not to admire it, but to remember where it all began. A muddy street, a broken leg, a stranger's hand, and a little girl who called her mama before she ever believed it herself. That night, as they sat by the fire, Mira curled up between them. Tell me the story again, she yawned. How you met, Ethan laughed. It was raining. She fell and you ran to her first. And Papa fixed her leg, Mira added. Lyra smiled, brushing her fingers through Mira's hair. And you were the first one who called me family. Mira looked up sleepily. Because you are. The fire cracked softly. The stars above blinked gently. And for the first time in forever, Lyra didn't wonder if she belonged. She knew. She was loved. She was home. And she was never alone again.